Hey guys, welcome to the product angle. I thought I'd try something different. My name is Pradeep, and on the very first, I'm actually excited, the very first podcast of the product angle, I have a very good friend of mine, Edwin.
Hey, I'm Edwin. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here on the very first podcast. I'm actually excited, nervous, there's a whole range of emotions going on right now.
I think you're fine. I think you're doing a great job. So
Thank
just
you
keep
so
it
much.
up.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Yeah.
So Edwin,
Yeah.
can you tell our audience a little bit about yourself, what you're currently doing, things like that?
Sure. So I'm a product manager by trade. That's what I've been doing for the last few years. Right now, what I do is I help companies grow, working with startups, work with a VC firm to fund those startups, but also work with them to build consumer applications that are going to help people. So that's what I do now. It's a little bit of a transition, but it's still aligned with what I want to do. So it's exciting.
Sounds pretty exciting.
Yeah.
Sounds pretty exciting. So I grew up in London, and I don't think you're a New Yorker. I think you're from Pennsylvania, right?
Yeah. So I grew up in Philadelphia.
Okay.
I actually went to high school in Louisville, but I've lived in Philadelphia for a long time.
Okay.
So, yeah. It's,
Cool. Tell me how growing up and experience school and things like that. I'd love to learn a little bit more about that because growing up in school in London
Right.
was a different experience. Now I live in school in the US through my son.
Yeah.
So just tell me a little bit about growing up and your experience in Philadelphia.
So Philadelphia is great. It's one of those cities where there's a range of groups and ethnicities and different things that are going on. So I actually went to school in a Jewish neighborhood. So a lot of my classmates were Jewish. I experienced like bar mitzvahs, and it was like very different from what I was used to. But that was interesting. When I went to high school in Kentucky, I actually went to a different school. It was a school that Muhammad Ali went to.
Wow.
So that was very interesting. So that was a great experience as well. And then before I moved to New York to work at the NBA, I lived in Philadelphia. So I love Philadelphia. It's my favorite city. There's a lot of great things to do there. It's really fun.
I've been there once or twice.
Okay.
I think I went, there's a Mint Museum there. There's a few other museums in the area.
There's a lot of museums.
Yes, so I went there with my son once or twice around about winter time. And it was amazing.
Yeah.
I would love to go back there one more day.
Yeah.
If you're ever around,
definitely.
let's make a trip one day to Philadelphia. I'm sure you can tell me all the good restaurants and all the places to go.
A bunch of museums.
Sounds good.
A lot of good cheesesteaks.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
So tell me more about, in terms of arts and culture. So I know you have, from your background from Philadelphia, and you enjoy the arts and cultures and things like that. Tell me a little bit more about that and what you're into and how things work. And coming from, I keep repeating this, but coming from a desk job, the arts and the culture is somewhat new to me. Even doing this podcast, YouTube, it's pretty new. So I'd love to learn about the other side of the world, if you will.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've always been into arts and culture. It's actually interesting because I am the only person in my family and my extended family who does not play an instrument. So everyone else plays an instrument. And somehow that skipped me. But what that's also taught me is I'm really into art. I used to draw, I used to paint a lot. And now what I do is I like to look at art, right? So I spend time at the MoMA, I spend time at the Whitney. In Philadelphia, there's a Barnes Foundation, and there's also Philadelphia Museum of Art. Those things are very interesting to me. I want to collect art one day. I'm going to have to have a fair amount of money to do that, but I'm learning how to do that a little bit, step by step. I'm really into contemporary art, so like artists like Kaws or Jeff Koons or Shepard Fairey, those people, I get a lot of interest by looking at them. I'm also into art that's made by people of color. So just earlier this week, a painting sold for $21 million by Kerry Marshall, right? That was very, very interesting. It was something I was really into. So I'm into that. I love music. So that's all tied together. So I have like friends who are in music, who are artists. I have friends who are in art. I have friends who are lawyers, friends who are bankers, and then I'm in tech. And I would love to like bring all of that together one day where like everyone can like just connect and say like, hey, this is what you do, but this is like, we're all human and this is like a human experience, So I find that to be very interesting.
No, that is very interesting. I mean, I did art back in, I would say, 8th grade and 9th grade. And since then, I haven't touched it. But one of my favorite artists were Roy Lichtenstein. I just like that pop art kind of look to it. I don't know why I was attracted to it, but that's what I studied or tried to study during the 9th and 8th grades. Some of the, I'll have to Google some of the artists that you mentioned. But it was a good time back in the day. Art and ceramics, and we're building pottery things. It was a very good time. It was fun for me, and I remember I had a couple of books that I Druin back in London.
Yeah.
And I still look at them once in a while. It's a different perspective.
Right.
But it's something that I'd like to get back into.
You should. And one thing I always tell people is, so I have a buddy who's always like, so what should I buy? What should I like? I'm like, I don't know. What do you like? So it's all about what you personally like, and knowing that if you see something and you're gonna have a reaction to it in your gut, right? That's what you should go with, right? Don't worry about what everyone else thinks, right? So there's things that I see that someone's paid $100 million for it, and I'm like, if I had $100 million, I wouldn't spend it on that, right? It just doesn't move me in that way. So that's definitely what you should do, and just kind of like go down the path of what you like.
Yes.
That's gonna be more encouraging and more exciting than
Absolutely. I mean, I've been playing around with my Mac, trying to draw things, electronic art, electronic music, EDM. I think it's cool. There's a lot of different things that I've been trying to try out to see what it's like.
Right.
There are some things that are really fun, and there are some things that I'm just trying to figure out how to use this piece of software now.
Right.
It's so software driven. And there was a time when I would pick up a paintbrush and paint and see, I can't paint to save my life.
That's fine.
It's relaxing and soothing.
It is.
It's fun. Sunday afternoon, just to pick up a paintbrush and paint. So that's good.
And one thing I'll also say is, what you're doing is like what makes great product managers, right? The willingness to like try new things and kind of see like what happens when you try them. And knowing just like, okay, if I try this is what happens. That helps you down the line when a user comes in and say, we want this. You kind of like put all those tools together and say, oh, this is what we can do. So it's all like a learning process, and it never stops. That's the fun part about it.
That's a perfect segue into product management.
Right.
So you were a product manager at MBA for a while. Talk me through how you got into MBA and experience as a product manager during your time at the MBA.
Yeah. So worked at the MBA as a product manager. It was exciting, and it's interesting. So I was working at the Philadephia Eagles, working on their digital products, and that was really fun because we built the first mobile app then for the Philadephia Eagles. Worked on their website, worked on a lot of fun projects. And when I was at the Philadephia Eagles, one thing we noticed is that the Eagles were at the forefront of digital. There were a few teams that were really good, but the Eagles were really good. And the reason why is there was like a mission statement, and there was a core focus on making sure that the fans were happy, because the reason why was the Eagles were always sold out, right? They had a long season ticket holder list. So you weren't ever going to get to experience a game unless you got lucky.
Sure.
So our job on the digital side was to like give that feeling to those people who couldn't do it, and also give that feeling to people who weren't in the local area, right? Okay. So having that mindset and knowing that this is the goal and this is the mission was really helpful when I went to the NBA, because at the NBA, I was working on the NBA's international products. Most of those people, I would say 99.9% of the people that we were setting our products out to would never experience an NBA game live in person.
Okay.
So that was like the core mission. How do we get these people to get the feeling, to experience the NBA, to get that same feeling you get when you sit courtside or you sit at the top of Madison Square Garden? Like, how do you get that feeling from the digital product? So that was like the core mission. Of course, we also wanted to make a little bit of money by doing that, but that was the core mission, and making sure that those fans were able to experience the product. And by having that makes it easy for you to prioritize everything that comes along, right? Like, do this, does that fit the core mission? Do this, does that fit the core mission?
Everything goes back to the core mission. That's interesting. I've seen some companies do have that core mission,
right? And
I'm trying to think of how they work and build products. And then there are companies who don't really have a core mission,
right?
But they try different things.
Right.
That's an interesting. Everything revolves around the core mission, and every action that you take, does it work towards the core mission? If it does, let's move forward.
Right.
And if it doesn't, let's reevaluate, or skip.
Yeah.
That's an interesting. That is an interesting way of looking at things. I'm trying to think of companies that have great mission statements or values, and their value prop, and they're just the way they present products, services is just a complete different way.
Right.
It's interesting.
Yeah, I would say like companies that I found in the space that I think do a good job of that are Amazon.
Yes.
Customer first, always. Facebook has a great core mission. They want to bring the world together. So all their products revolve around that. Nike is a little bit different because their core mission is like, I guess we can use just do it as part of the core mission, but really their core missions push people to be more active, right? Yeah. So it's like there's all these different core missions, and I think for me, if a company doesn't have a mission statement or it's a core mission and like this is our goal, it's okay. I'm sure there's some companies out there that don't, but it makes it harder for you as a product manager to know like how do I prioritize, right?
Sure.
What are we focusing on today? So,
yes.
Yeah.
So during your time either at the Philadelphia Eagles or at the NBA, talk about something that you had a desire or something that you were putting towards in the product, and just talk about how your thought process, what you did, how you evaluated the idea, and then from the point it was an idea in your head to the point it was implemented in the product.
Sure. So we've done a lot of things along those lines. I would say one of the exciting ones was when we decided to launch the NBA app on tvOS.
Okay.
And this was when Apple had just released a new generation of Apple TVs. I love Apple products, so for me it was like, let's get on here, right? Sure. But we started thinking about it, and there was this opportunity to create a product on Apple TV that people who had just bought that product were going to be able to enjoy the NBA. So that was one, going to put us at the forefront of releasing apps first, but it was also going to help like with the core mission of, hey, here's an Apple TV that's now connected to your TV. Now you get this HD experience, being able to watch the NBA, right? So that's one of the examples. There's a ton of examples like that where basically we sit in a room or we all just have conversations and we say, what can we do today to kind of like make our fans happier, right? To bring them closer to us, right? Sure. To even like think about like buying league pass, like what can we do? And we always just sit and we talk about it and we think about our experience. We think about like what happens when we try to watch games. What are the things that we find to be painful, and we try to solve that. And then we just go and we work with design and we work with the engineers and like how can we get this together? And for me, it's really important to bring design and engineering in and talk to them and get their viewpoints as well. Because sometimes you want that person who thinks a little bit differently from you, right? Someone who's like thinking in a different way, or who has like expertise in that specific domain, so they can tell you like, here are some of the pitfalls that you're not thinking about. So it's really exciting. I love that part, like the working it out part. To me, like once it's launched, it's almost like, all right, we're like that was it was supposed to launch. We've done that. The fun part is the process.
Yes, absolutely. Working in a team is a whole separate conversation.
It's a lot there.
I love it when you have a team that just bonds and gels well.
Right.
Everyone has their own specific portions, if you will, but you come together as a team and build something great. Yeah. And working with designers, engineers, the whole gamut, if you will, it's a satisfying moment. When you're about to press that button to say launch or whatever it is, event or whatever it may be. It's a pretty interesting concept.
It is, and I also think, and this is something that I've learned a lot, and it goes back to the teamwork. But it's like when you get everyone involved and you learn how to get everyone involved. That's something that I had to learn over time. It's also more satisfying, right? Because you realize that these are people, and these are people who also want to come in and have joy in what they want to do, right? So
take ownership as well.
Exactly. So like when you can do that, if you can bring everyone in and have them all aligned, or at least think about the core mission, it makes it much easier to execute and get stuff out. So I love that piece.
So for our aspiring product managers, what is some of the first things that you should do when thinking of building a product? Talk about some MVPs or wireframes or things like that. What if you have an idea? What would you say how to make it happen? What would you implementation? You don't want to spend too much money in the beginning, but you want to get that MVP up and running. How would you work that through?
So for me, I always think it's great to kind of get a sense of like the problem you're solving and talk to the people who you want to solve that problem for and get a sense of what they want, and then start working on the MVP, right? Start building that out. So I always think that if you can get some sort of MVP out there, it might be functional, it might not be functional, but something that you can sort of have someone react to. Sure. You're gonna get better feedback for you to iterate and go from there, right? Sure. So it's okay if it's not well designed. It's okay if you don't have a designer. It's okay if you don't have an engineer who's going in and creating server-side code and front-end code and put it all together. Like it's okay to just build something that's really stripped down so that someone can react to it, because you can use that to figure out here's the direction to go in, or here's where some of the assumptions that we made were like off, or this validates our assumptions. Sure. Let's go full blown and bring everyone else and go from there. So I always believe in that.
So that's good. You make me feel better because my website, theproductangle.com, it's something I created. I used to code and things like that back in the day. So it's a very simple MVP, if you will, just to put something out there and get some traction, get some people. So please visit theproductangle.com.
Absolutely. I totally love what you're doing there, because it's I think a lot of people feel like I have to sink all my resources in there. I have to go and hire someone and get it there. And it's like, no, just start with something and see where you go from there. At some point, you're going to have to hire people. So I'm not saying don't hire people. Or at some point, you're going to have to bring someone in. But think about like what you could do now to get started. And also think about what you can't do, because that's going to tell you what you need to get.
Resources around site. Yeah, I mean, this, I've said this earlier as well. I have 3 cameras here, 2 microphones. I have a Focusrite piece of equipment. I have my MacBook here, and I have my notes. So, I mean, I've tried to put some work into it.
No, you've done a lot.
But trying to, when it comes to execution, it's a different story, because I'm not outgoing as much, but I think I am in a sense.
But when you are.
Thank you. But when you're on camera, it's a different different kind of conversation. I think we've met in a coffee shop one day. We had a conversation. But now that you're sitting in front of 2 microphones, 3 cameras, and a MacBook, it's for some reason it's just a different kind of experience.
It's very different, and I'm hoping, because I feel like I'm more of a conversational person, right? And I'm hoping that it's like helpful to do it that way. I don't know. We'll look at the data and we'll see how people react to it, and we'll build on top of it.
Yeah,
this is the MVP.
No, absolutely. I mean, look, I have my notes here, and I figured I'll start with the conversation this way, and then we'll talk about A, B, and C. But I feel like I've gone off the track a little bit, and you've put me in at times, and it's fun, but the MVP aspect, I think it's a relief that you mentioned that, because the website is bare bones, if you will.
Which
has a link to Twitter, has a link to YouTube. I haven't put any links to iTunes or anything like that, which I'll do once I've had some time to edit and make a video as well as the audio component.
Yeah, one thing I'll say too is a lot of products tend to be over-designed or over-engineered, right? And that's why it's important to have the MVP and see how people react to it, and then you build on top of it, right? But if you want to have something that's perfect from the get-go, which I think there's that's a good strategy too, depending on what the resources that you have. But if you want it to be perfect, it's probably not going to ever launch. So
I can't remember who said it, but someone said that if you're waiting for the perfect time to launch or waiting for the perfect product, it's already too late.
I agree with that.
And I think this is just my version, if you will, of trying to put out a podcast, a YouTube video, and hopefully, since this is my first one, by the time I get to 10, 11, 12,
that's the whole point. It's about showing progression.
Exactly. Hopefully, I'll get more confident, and the product turns out much nicer.
Exactly. When we have conversations with I had a conversation with someone, right? When we have conversations with them, they always feel like, well, before I show you anything, it has to be great. Right? It has to make sense, which I'm like, that's fine. If you want it to be great, you can do that. But I'm more interested in seeing the dots and seeing, okay, I saw you start here, and then you went here the next time I saw you, and then you went here the next time I saw you. That progression is more important than someone who started here and went here and here, right? So that's something to keep in mind.
That's great advice for all the people who are thinking of starting something, but just are too afraid to start because they might be thinking, what if we get negative feedback?
That negative feedback is just feedback, right? Just take it, and I get feedback all the time. I get negative feedback all the time. To me, it's like, you know what? Here's how I'm going to react to it. I will admit there's times where I've gotten negative feedback and I've gotten upset, I've thrown a tantrum, right? But as you grow older, you realize that sometimes that feedback that you're getting, there's things in it that you can learn from, that you can use to become a better person.
Absolutely. I view feedback in 2 ways. It can be productive, tell me what I can do to better myself. And then there are going to be people who just put negativity out there because that's the way they are.
Right.
And it's a conversation my wife and I were having one day. She's not too keen on being out there because of that negative feedback. And I said, who cares?
Who cares? Exactly,
because, there's going to be people who are going to say this podcast sucks.
Right.
There might be people who think that this podcast is good.
Right.
But at the end of the day, tell me what I can do to improve. And hopefully, like I said, by episode 10, 11, 12, things will be different. Yeah. And I'm all ears, So if you're watching this on YouTube, please comment below. Let me know what I can do to improve this, and we'll work on it.
Yeah, and the one thing I also say is always try to provide value, because if you provide value, that makes it easier, right?
Yes.
There are some people who have podcasts just to hear themselves talk, which is fine.
Yes,
that's not a problem. But you always have to think about what value you're providing to someone else, and that's the key to everything in life, right? If you're not providing value to anyone else, or yourself even, then what's the point of doing it?
Absolutely. Yeah, and I think this idea of the product angle came out as every business, every individual, anyone who's providing a product or a service has to package whatever product or service in a particular way.
That's true.
And product management somewhat helps you guide through that process, in my opinion.
Exactly.
So the idea of the product angle is really to bring on entrepreneurs, or even if you work at a company or whatever it may be, people who are making or creating products, just to talk about their experiences, because I've created products in the past, I've created services in the past. Some have been successful, some have been unsuccessful. So as you grow, you learn what works and what doesn't, and hopefully me having this sit-down conversation with different people, we can shine some light on thought process on what's worked, what hasn't, and things like that. And that's the value that I'm hoping that I can provide to the audience.
No, absolutely. I love it. It sounds like your batting average is going up. So
I appreciate that. I feel like this conversation is going from you into me now.
No, it's great. I like it. I mean, look, I think I wish that some of the lessons, some of the stuff that we've spoken about, some of the lessons that you've learned over time, some of the lessons I've learned over time, sometimes you wish that you had learned them when you were just out of college, right? So I told you that, right? So that's the value in what you're providing. It's hey, if you don't get anything out of this, here's one thing that you can use, that you can take and move forward with. So love it.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. It's going to be a good journey, I hope. And let me just go back to my notes, make sure I have everything covered. So tell me, as working as a product manager, we've talked about some of the things that you liked, the team building, and getting to the product. What are some of the things that you don't like? And just generically, maybe working late nights, or what are some of the things that you don't like working in product management, or could be improved?
Yeah, so I think one of the things that can be improved just across the board is, and I'll put this more on me than anyone else, is just how to communicate with different people.
Sure.
So when you're young or you're growing, if you're not exposed to a lot of different things and a lot of different people, sometimes you don't realize how to communicate with this person, communicate with this person, communicate with this person, right? So I would say that that was one of the things, just it was less things I didn't like, but I didn't like that I didn't have the end to communicate or motivate everyone, right? So for product managers, I feel it's really important for you to understand who you're working with and the personalities and who they are, and know what motivates them, because that makes you better at being able to execute on the core mission. If you understand this is what it takes for this engineer to do this, and this is what it takes for this designer to do this, and this is what it takes for this marketing person to do this, and then bring them all together and create a team, right?
Absolutely.
So it goes back to the team. I mean, there's parts where it's yes, it's not fun sometimes to be working till late at night. I think that comes with the territory, so that's fine. I think something that also happens, which is less what you control, but just market forces, is sometimes a competitor comes out with something that's amazing.
Sure.
You're wow, we didn't think of that, right? But that's fine, because as long as you're learning and you're learning to let's build on top of what makes our audience happy, then it's less about competition and more about this is who we're trying to get. So how do we get them? So
definitely. And I learned that's a very good communication is a very good tool. So for our audience, tell me about product management, what it is, the role, what to expect, and things like that for aspiring product managers.
Yeah. So the way I describe it is almost the product manager is the mini CEO of product, right? So let's say your product is to build a mobile app for the Philadelphia Eagles, right? You're the product manager, and your job that's been outlined for business is you want a mobile app, right? So you work with the designers to come up with what it should look like. You work with the engineers to actually build the app because it's something in the digital space. Then you work with marketing and best way to make people aware of this app, right? And then there's the aspect of it, which it's weird. No one ever talks about this as a separate function, but it probably should be. It's like the data scientist who helps you understand what's happening with the mobile app and how to move forward with it, right? So you're basically like working with all these different teams cross-functionally in a digital space, like build something that people can use and get value from. And then hopefully you, by providing them value, provides more value for your company, right? So that's the way I see it. It's like the technical definition, I guess, but the way I see it is like you go in and you're basically facilitating the creation and the maintenance of like digital products. Yeah. So
got it. So what recommendations would you give for aspiring product managers getting their first job or moving up the ladder?
Moving up the ladder, getting your first job. I mean,
two different questions. It's going to be very, the answer is going to be two different things.
So, like to first get in, it's very interesting. When I got into product, it was just more like I worked on digital products, right? So I started out being a front end developer. I would like to say I wasn't really good at it, so I had to kind of like figure out what to do. So, I started as a front-end developer, built a bunch of products, worked on a lot of different things, and at some point there was a role that was available to be the person who helped build more digital products, so like facilitated the creation of the digital products, right? So, so I did that. I think the best way to get in is if you can get in somewhere where you're helping with design, or you can get in somewhere where you're helping with actually building. If you're an engineer, I'm an engineer, but I want to like help actually facilitate the building of these. That's always like a natural way to get in. And then just like pay attention to like what's going on out there, right? What technologies are happening, what's going on. So I know we talked about it earlier. It's like blockchain, right?
Yes.
There's going to be products that are built on top of blockchain. I'm not sure we know what that's going to be yet, right? But if you can kind of like look at the environment, look at technologies, use that. Someone's always willing to like have someone who has expertise or like knows about something come help build something. So that's really what it is. You're really building and learning like who you can work with to help you build. So that's advice that I would give. For people who are product managers now who are aspiring to move up, my advice is always understand the consumer for your product, whichever product you're working on now, and always try to provide them value. And that always helps, right? Because you're like, this is something I think will help our customers, which ultimately will help the bottom line. And then just have great relationships with your engineering and design team and the marketing and business team, because ultimately you have to work with them, and that's how you show leadership to being a product manager. Like the best product managers are leaders, but you have to lead in a way where you're not there for your glory, you're there for the glory of the team. So that's like a key part of it.
If it's successful, it was a team effort. Right. But if it fails,
it was you.
I got it. Yeah. But let me ask you a question. So there's two schools of thoughts on this, and I want to get your opinion on this.
Right.
As a business, do the customers come first, or do your employees come first? It's a deep question, if you will. But I've seen both sides. Some people say that without a customer you have no business. But then without any employees, if you have employees, they're the ones that drive the customers. So what's your opinion? Do the customers come first, or do your employees come first?
So that's a tricky question to answer. What I believe in is that you should just always do the right thing. And that always tells you like what the answer should be.
Great answer.
So that's very hard. It's hard for me to like one or the other. I guess customers first, but but I don't know. I always just do the right thing, and it'll figure itself out.
Exactly. I've been thinking about this a lot recently. If you have a large corporation, the customers bring in the revenue. Right. But then your employees are the ones doing the work. Right. So should there be one that's more important than the other? I find it hard to distinguish the two. Right. And I think doing the right thing is absolutely the way it should be. Right. Do right by your employees and do right by your customers.
Exactly. Yeah. So I hope that's the way of the future. I know a lot of companies focus on the bottom line. And I think that's how huge companies work, which is fine. But I always think that if you do the right thing, it all kind of figures itself out. And then you kind of like go from there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Switching gears into social media.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on social media? Where do you think, social media will be down the road?
Yeah. So I think social media is definitely here to stay. I think that the ability to allow people to express themselves and put themselves out there and, express their opinions is very important. I think that with a lot of what we've learned in the last few years with privacy and, the data that is being gathered by all these companies and how they use it, I think that's also going to be very important where that goes. I think that the era of social media has been very, very tremendous. A lot of wealth has been created. A lot of good things have happened. But a lot of bad things have also happened, right? Yeah. So it's like with any new technology, there's always like that push and pull between like we want to do good things, but these are the side effects that happen with it. So I use social media. My use of social media is weird because I have like accounts that I only share with like friends and family. Sure. But then I also have accounts that I've built for companies that I've worked with and like people that I've worked with. So I know people who are on social media just for their companies. Yeah. And I know people who are on social media just for personal stuff. Yes. And I've kind of like done both. But I think social media is a great tool. I think it's a great thing. It's helped with building a lot of companies. I think it's going to continue to do so. We just have to see what happens with the transition from like these new technologies that are coming, like what's going to happen with 5G, what's going to happen with blockchain, what's going to happen with like VR and AR, and how to kind of like put that all together, and how does social media react to that? Yes,
that's gonna blockchain. I don't know much about, but I've heard a lot of good things and bad things about it. Right. And it's one of the topics that I'm researching. Right. And it has a lot of potential, but then you have some people who say it's not ready. Yeah. Some people who say they love it and it has a lot of future. Right. I just have to do a little bit more research on this one.
I agree with that too. I mean, I don't know anything about it. I'm reading a book now, but just to get up to speed. But I don't know. We'll see. And I think there's really smart people who are focused on figuring it out. So I think that we'll kind of look to them and do it. And we'll kind of like figure out like what's the next step. How do we leverage this to help everyone?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. Where do you see yourself in 3 years' time?
3 years' time? Wow. It's harder for me to answer 3 years. I know like where I want to be eventually. So eventually I know what I want to do is I want to help people grow companies, right? So like, product angle, what you're looking to build, I would love to help with that in any way.
Thank you.
Exactly. And that's what I want to do, right? I like do the right thing, but help people build companies and be able to kind of like explore these ideas and see if it works, right? Because ultimately, if you build great companies, I think that you're going to help humanity in a whole because you're building things for people that provides value, right? Yes. So that's what I would love to do. I think that eventually it would be great to be able to help by providing advice or be actually like putting my hands in and like build this together or like helping with like funding or any way or connecting you to someone that can help you with that. So that's what I would love to do. That's what I'm working towards. Sure. We'll see how that works out.
You seem like a great guy and I think once you have your head set or your heart set on something, I think you achieve it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So it's like, let's just kind of like take it one step at a time and we'll go from there. Yeah.
Walk before you jump.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay, and last question.
Yeah.
3 things that you'd like to tell our audience that you've learned, something that's valued, that you've experienced, something to watch out for. 3 things that you just want to leave the audience with from your experience, in product management so far.
Right. So I would say that we've talked about this, but always do the right thing. Always try to figure out how to do the right thing. Always try to provide value or try to help more than you ask, which is kind of weird, right? So give more than you take, right? And don't expect people to give back. That's not why you're doing it. You're giving because you want to help, right? So always do that. And then this is almost like weird with what we just said, but always ask questions and always be willing to learn, right? Because there's so much going on out there that you don't know, and there's always someone that might know more than you. So be willing to like take from others and learn from them what may be like the best way to do something. So
that's good. That's great advice. I'm just thinking it through because it can get really deep.
I know. I got a little bit too deep.
No, it's good because a lot of people nowadays, I feel like they want more than they give.
Right.
You know, how can you help me as opposed to what can we do to help each other,
right.
or you know, learn from each other.
Right.
You know, I appreciate you coming out here. You know, there's nothing I'm giving you to come out here.
Which is fine. Yeah,
exactly. It's
but I've learned a lot from you though, so it's almost like exactly. So it's like sometimes it's surprising the avenues that you learn from someone, right? So I'm like glad to help. I'm excited to help.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
No, thank you.
Thank you guys for watching. Hopefully the next one and the ones after get a little better. I still have to learn how to edit, put 3 cameras together. I have one big, large MP3 recording. So hopefully the end product, you know, comes out good. But I appreciate it.
No, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah,
thanks,
glad to
Edwin.
be. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.